A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition. Now let us quickly look at the topics that we are covering. So one is this topic which is important from prelims point of view, unique topic. Besides, from mains point of view, this seems important. In direct benefit transfer, D stands for dignity. Important in the sense that one is, of course, we can look at DBT and how it is an efficient way of subsidy transfer, right, from economics point of view, and other from governance point of view, that it ensures dignity of the beneficiary. The main theme that author focuses on is she's talking about the government transitioning from a paternalistic approach to eradicate poverty to a rights-based approach. This is an important theme from governance point of view. Now, as to the economy section, there are these two articles which seemed important. So one is in light of a lot of cyber crimes, cyber frauds, financial frauds that are taking place, Finance Ministry is holding a meeting with several key stakeholders. Of course, the outcome will tell us the series of measures that need to be put in place. Right, so that's why it is important. GS3. Now, today morning, I shared with you an article concerning this, and it tells us about some series of recommendations that have been made to deal with cyber frauds in the banking domain, financial domain. So this is coming from a civil society organization known as Bank Bachao Desh Bachao Manch, BBDBM. So you can see for yourself, right? And you can use them in your answer writing. Next article seems more important for prelims. Surplus liquidity normalization, robust credit growth, bolstered monetary policy transmission. So you see surplus liquidity normalization, what steps took place? Right. So there is reference of, for example, external benchmark lending rate, which I have already shared with you in the morning. Then MCLR. Then there is one that is not mentioned, incremental cash reserve ratio. So what steps have been taken? What is the key definition? So statement-based question can be asked. And then from the explained, we have rat hole mining and Kambala. Now coming to the front page. So again, a tunnel evacuation that is going on. And in light of the tunnel evacuation, there is a mention of rat hole mining. It is there in the explained section. Now I'm telling you right now. So what will be done is, you see the people are trapped in the tunnel. They are drilling, but there are some difficulties that are coming while going further. So the people outside will be, evacuation team will be sending people who will go into the tunnel, the digging that is taking place, a pipe, they will go inside it and manually break this hurdles that are there, dig and open the pathway so that people out inside the cave, inside the tunnel can come out. Right. And for this, the people who are going in and doing this work, this is similar to rat hole mining, the practice of rat hole mining. So rat hole mining is most notably seen in the state of Meghalaya. In the state of Meghalaya, where people go into narrow places, very, very small areas like 600 areas, half a meter. They go inside, pick up the coal and come back. So manually they do all this work, and it is a dangerous practice. It was banned by the NGT in Meghalaya. Next news. US inputs legally presentable, no specifics from Canada. Okay. So it's very simple. We are seeing different approaches of India when it is dealing with USA as compared to when it was dealing with Canada on the Khalistani issue. What happened with Canada? Hardeep Nijjar was killed. Canadian government, the Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, went to the Parliament and said there is an Indian involvement in the killing of Nijjar. In a way, he's holding the Indian government, Indian intelligence agencies responsible for the deaths on the Canadian soil. So without giving India any opportunity, right, any opportunity or anything, this statement was made. So this left little option with India, and India took a strong objection to this. And we all know Canadian diplomats in India were asked to leave, so which was beyond the ratio. So we want as many as the Indians which are there in Canada, same proportion should be there, vice versa. Now coming to the US side. So recently it came forward that a US citizen, US Canadian citizens, Gurpanwant Pannu, effort was made to assassinate this person, right? A provocative Khalistani leader. It came to light from the US media that US had given communication to India and informed them about a possible attempt. So when this was done, it was done through back channel, and it did not imply the government of India. It simply said the people of India. So this is different. It could also mean drug traffickers. It could also mean gangsters. It could mean anything. It need not just be government. So that was the difference. So they say that when US is giving inputs, first of all, it is giving input. This is legally presentable, and we can work on it. But what Canada did was not acceptable. And when Canada said, please cooperate with us, it was more so that we find you guilty, now you cooperate with us. Like, for example, when it is with some accused, which we do. Okay, next. To check fraud, 4-hour delay likely in first UPI transfer for over rupees 2,000 with a new contact. Right? For example, my mother gives me 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees. That's not an issue. She's an existing contact, but with a new contact. Why so? This is because normally cyber fraud, especially linked with UPI, so that happens with new contacts. So thereby, and this is not a deliberate policy of a 4-hour delay. It's just that when first time a transaction is taking place, a high value transaction, then it will be regulated. There will be greater scrutiny so that wrongful conduct is ruled out. Gita Mittal Committee on Manipur. So this committee was there in light of the violence that took place in Manipur, Meitei and Kuki violence. So to see that the state ensures rightful conduct, plus compensation for families of deceased, reconstruction of religious buildings, homes, etc., are overseen by this committee. This was constituted by the Supreme Court. We just go forward on this thing. Okay, next article. Bihar government orders prohibition survey. So it's simple. Prohibition means no liquor, no alcohol will be sold in the state. So of course, so Bihar had come up with the prohibition policy sometime in 2015, if I'm not wrong, 2015, in 2017. Okay. So they came up with this policy. Now they say that there should be a survey done to see what is the outcome of this policy, how many people are consuming, etc. Door-to-door survey should take place. Okay. So that's it. Right? We're not concerned with anything beyond this. Now, what is the opposition party is saying? They are protesting. They are saying that you're wasting resources of the state. You already did caste survey some time back. This exercise could have been clubbed with that. Nobody's objecting. You do prohibition survey, but you should have been as part of the caste survey. Now your duplication of work is taking place. Then you're doing it with the election cycle. Why were you not doing anything over the years? Okay, that's politics. But it tells us one more thing. One, the issue of prohibition is a core topic amongst women, right? Politicians are now more receptive to the concerns of the women. So that can be a aspect. For example, Prime Minister Modi, women reservation bill, Bihar prohibition. So the trend is emerging. So the role of women in politics, so that can be their activity over here. Besides, one can obviously analyze the pros and cons of the policy of prohibition. and we can refer to the directive principles of state policy. Right, so this is the framework I feel it should be done. So one is this prohibition as a whole analysis, and then the role of women in politics. So more participation is taking place. The political class is now more receptive to the women voters because more voting is taking place. All those things. Okay. In Chhattisgarh, Maoists torch 14 vehicles used for road construction. And this brings to light, I'm just talking the question now, that the issue of left-wing extremism, which is being repeatedly asked in the GS3 paper. To attempt this, you should know the trends in LWE decline. It is decline only. Then the reasons for left-wing extremisms and the measures that have been taken. And of course, last, you can also talk about the way forward, suggestions. Next, COP28, with reference to the climate change. COP28 will be taking place in Dubai. So this is to see health ministerial meet also. So this is the first time a health ministerial meet is being combined with the climate change convention. So why? Why is it being done? What are the reasons, probable reasons? So one is that health sector contributes to 5% of emissions. So that could be there. So more sustainable healthcare sector. But the bigger issue is that climate change and the global warming has repercussions on the healthcare. So health cost increases because more people are likely to fall ill. They're more likely to be disasters and natural hazards, etc. So that will not be good. So we need to look at climate change from a healthcare perspective, right? And next one over here, we see limited multilateral funding which goes to for climate change. Limited amount of that funding is going towards the healthcare domain. So that awareness, that consciousness needs to be created. So thereby, the health ministerial meet is being combined with the COP28. Now, of course, climate change and associated health risks is a main-based topic, clearly. And as far as we are concerned, we are seeing the events of heat waves, and we can talk about heat stress and need for a heat action plan for the government as to what it should do to deal with it. This is an important topic. Again, water stress, about half of a population, 650 million, according to the Composite Water Management Index released by the Niti Aayog. So about 650 million people are affected, which is half of our population. So water stress is emerging. So again, so it will have a repercussion on the healthcare domain. Then the rising vector-borne diseases, more floods, floods, etc. are taking place. Urban floods are taking place. Ideal breeding places for mosquitoes and vectors. So that is emerging. In fact, you know what? December was almost. We are seeing this Aedes aegypti mosquito, which carries the dengue. Dengue incidents were on the rise in the month of November. It was September, October, August, September, those months. So we see this trend over here. I'd like to add one more. Polar ice is melting, right? Polar ice, and that would expose the primitive bacteria and pathogens. So new disease would also come up. Okay, now coming to COP28. What are the key objectives besides this health ministerial? Just a quick brush up. Global stock taking exercise will be taking place. It was initiated in COP27. It will sum up in COP28 in a year's time. It will basically tell us as to where is the government, where is the world, globe on the target of restricting climate change to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So globally, and when we talk about globally, it will be done by aggregating the country-wise data. So country-wise also, local data will also come up. And then it will push as to what the more effort has to be done on that regard. There are talks about tripling the renewable energy production, renewable energy goal for 2030. If this is done, it can help ease 7 billion ton of carbon emissions and climate financing. So Green Climate Fund, 100 billion were committed, but hardly anything is coming. So that thing is to be looked into. Coming to the editorial opinion page. So first of all, I'm not doing this. India's different approach in nature, Panu, we just covered it also. This doesn't seem important as far as we are concerned from exam point of view. Moving on. Bad air days. This is about the Delhi pollution. So if we just read this line, we are done actually. This is the main top aspect. It says a plan for each major source of pollution needs to be designed for short, medium, and long term, and then implemented. Of course, we cannot, okay, for Delhi pollution, more pollution is taking place, but more pollution is taking place from which sources? And those sources have to be dealt with from a short term and a long term point of view. For example, stubble burning is taking place, right? So we know, okay, fine, stubble burning is contributing, let's say, somewhere between 19% to 40% of the pollution on the Delhi, depending on the wind direction. So short term should be penal and long term should be sustainable ways of utilizing stubble. Likewise, vehicular pollution, short term could be odd and even policy, or simply saying no vehicles would move. So, and vehicular pollution is, by the way, 28%, 25 to 28%. So what can be done is, of course, long term can be that we move towards electric mobility, EVs. We can talk about more people using public transport. And with that, we can always talk about development of transit-oriented development approach to urbanization. So that can be talked about, right? So that is, of course, long-term measure. Likewise, construction. Likewise, this part was not mentioned. Tires, etc., are burnt by the people from the marginalized sections to get warmth. They don't have shelter, etc. Right? You cannot stop people from doing this. It's an inhumane thing. But at the same time, long term would be having proper housing, some sort of shelter should be there, aid should be there. Now the solution over here is social issue. Tire burning is more of a social issue than a climate issue when you look at the long term aspect. This article actually is not important, not by fiat. This is mainly talking about a tax dispute with India and Nestle. This is the article that, to understand, comprehend, I refer to this over here. This was the ruling that came up. This was in 2021. Okay. So Nestle basically has a tax dispute with India, and Nestle claims that they expect that they should be held at a lower, the tax that is imposed on them, that should be lower rate, because it is operating from a most favored nation. And besides, it should also get benefits under double tax avoidance agreement, DTAA treaty. So because Indian government has come up with these MFN and DTAA. But the tax assessor, he's saying that, see, okay, fine, Indian government is part of all this. Your company is operating from there. But the law according to which I am operating, this is not permissible. So I have to charge you at a higher rate. Right. So this is the dispute. The dispute is international treaty, basically, versus what is there in the domestic law. So that is what the court is looking at. So the court is referring to Article 73 of the Constitution, 73 and 253. So 73 says that the powers of the Union Executive are coterminous with those of the Parliament. It says that, okay, fine, in matters of international obligation, international treaty, etc., the Union has a final say. But in case there is a law made by the Parliament, then the law shall prevail. If there is a treaty, then that suitable change should be reflected in the law. So that has to be done. So in case of a parliamentary law, the writ of the Parliament, the writ of the law shall prevail. So this gets primacy over this. Now coming to the next article, which is about the direct benefit transfer. The author says in DBT, the D stands for dignity. Okay, before starting, very quickly on the DBT. So the DBT approach was simple. It says that, let's say, earlier what was happening was government was regulating prices. To give subsidies, the government was regulating prices of essential commodities, be it rations, be it LPG, anything, right? Regulating the prices. They say that you cannot sell above this much price, and consumers could buy it at a lower price. In DBT, what is there? For example, LPG, the companies that are selling, oil marketing companies, they can sell it at the market prices, while the government can stipulate a price. Let's say the LPG price is 1,000 rupees, which the companies are selling, but the government announces a subsidy of 300 rupees, so that the effective price remains low. So the 300 rupees will go directly into the account of the beneficiaries through the direct benefit transfer, right? So the people are buying it at 1,000 rupees only, but the government directly gives subsidy based on the records that they have into the bank accounts. So this has number of benefits. It is market efficient. It removes the role of the middleman. It it is much cleaner, right? In that sense, it is more efficient. So those benefits are there. Okay. As far as some reports are concerned, it says that the scheme is a great success. There are these 310 government schemes across 53 ministries today, which are being implemented through the DBT model. Now coming to the dignity aspect. Okay. So it says, it has been linked with a rights-based approach and the paternalistic approach to eradication of poverty. Okay. So first one is paternalistic approach. So I'm connecting it. So the approach was that, let's say, experts and policymakers, they see that everything is fine in the economy, and it is the technical reasons because of which people are poor, lack of jobs, people not working, skill sets, etc. So there is this poverty, and the government is being paternalistic, like parents. They are looking after the welfare, doing welfare, and providing aid for the well-being of the poor. So that idea is that we are doing a favor to the people, especially to the poorer class. DBT enables transitioning from paternalistic approach to a rights-based approach. Rights-based approach is saying, it's a new approach which says that every individual has a right to live a normal life. They should not be living into poverty. There should certain basic aspects of life that should be provided to each and every one of us. It recognizes that there are some historical context to poverty. It is not just the technical aspect that we simply be explained by economic concepts, but there is a historical perspective to poverty. There is a social dimension to poverty, and the society as a whole is responsible, and they should try to correct this injustice. There is an injustice to a certain section which should be addressed. So that is the rights-based approach. It is based on the Rawlsian perspective of justice with a veil of ignorance. And this was asked in 2018 ethics paper, Rawls approach. Okay, so that has to be dealt with. Direct benefit transfer enables the rights-based approach. How? While delivering the benefits to the poor, the mechanism is such that their dignity is preserved. The people do not have to go, the poorer people who are eligible. So they are not required to knock on the doors of the intermediaries. The benefits are directly transferred into the bank accounts by the government. So they don't have to go knock and request that this subsidy, this thing should be provided to us. Then it treats everybody equal. That government at least on the front, it is not doing that for so and so class, it is a cheaper product. So that is not for everybody, it is the same price, but the government releases money into the bank accounts. Then DBT ended the poverty parade with the government reaching the poor. Government is reaching the poor rather than poor going to the government. Then, so that is the main aspect to it, right? These are the main aspects. So restoring the dignity of the poor is a understated concept associated with the DBT, which is less talked about. That was the last point that was covered. Okay, now we come to the international section. Israel Hamas truce extended for 2 days. Terms of the deal remain the same. Fine, very good. China's foreign minister to lead a United Nations Security Council meeting on Gaza humanitarian crisis. Okay. In Mexico, ecologists going all out to save iconic water monster, which is Axolotl. Right. So this is the the more popular name is water monster. This is a critically endangered species, and there is a massive decline in the population in the recent years. So it is again, just a second. It's a iconic endangered fish-like type of salamander. In fact, Wikipedia also had the same thing over here. These are the this is the species that we are talking about. It is salamander, fish-like. They have this feet also, you can see. Now coming to the economy section, oil 82, US 83.37. Finance Ministry to hold talks with reference to the other stakeholders concerning digital frauds and cyber crimes. Okay. So yeah, so Finance Ministry, then there are some agencies that are mentioned. National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal, then Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center, I4C, which is under the Home Ministry. Again, this can be asked in prelims. Okay. So these are again mentioned. Then of course banks are there. Now the following are being covered over here. What we can understand is one is the UPI thing, which we have already seen, that first transaction above upwards of rupees 2000 from a new contact, it will be regulated, right? Then predatory lending apps. So this has been a problem area. So especially the Chinese apps. So some regulatory measures should be there to deal with it. Previously, the Minister of IT talked about a four-fold framework, that is prevention, detection, response, and awareness. The four pillars of regulating the cyber fraud, cyber crimes, and also the deepfakes. These four terms were used. Right. Once the meetings completes, hopefully we should have some sort of an SOP, some sort of a criteria which is released by the government that we can take up. Okay. There is also mention of a financial fraud that took place with regards to the UCO Bank, which has raised alarm bells. So it has come to light that in UCO Bank, using a system known as IMPS, a mobile payment system, 820 crores were taken out from the bank the accounts of the people. 820 crores were taken out and transferred to different bank accounts. So this is a very, very major problem that took place. Okay, when this took place, the accounts which received money, they were blocked, and of this 649 crores have been recovered. But this is a very alarming issue. Now, this was only with reference to the UCO Bank, and that to IMPS technology. IMPS is a fund transfer method with a limit of 2 lakh rupees, again, which this can be asked in prelims. The civil society says Bank Bachao, Desh Bachao Manch, they are saying that what if instead of IMPS, NEFT or RTGS were attacked? And what if a government agency was targeted which was dealing with the financial matters? The scale of the loss would have been much worse, right? And this has to be dealt with on a war footing. They didn't say this, it just sounds good on answer writing. Okay, so these are the steps that can be taken. Fine, moving on. RBI thing, monetary policies, surplus liquidity normalization, robust credit growth, bolstered monetary policy transmission. Okay, surplus liquidity means too much money in the economy, which was of course leading to inflation. So that money has been brought down, right? So surplus liquidity normalization. What steps have been taken by the RBI? So one is incremental cash reserve ratio. This was done to absorb, this ban on rupees 2000. So this was done. So people had to deposit the 2000 rupees into the banks. So it's too much of liquidity into the banking sector all of a sudden. So to absorb this, incremental cash reserve ratio was introduced. So where there is CRR, SLR, over and above this, there was ICRR. Then, external benchmark based lending rate. This is being mentioned, and another mentioned is MCLR. So what are these? External benchmark based lending rate, it says that when the banks are lending, normally when the banks lend, they lend on the basis of, let's say, the cost of capital for banks, however they have raised the cost of capital, plus their profit markup. And this give the loan to the borrower, right? So this is given to the borrower. So this cost can be the internal cost of the bank. Now imagine, now what RBI is saying is that it should be external benchmark linked rate. So RBI says that sometimes what happens is they want to reduce liquidity, they increase the SLR, they increase the repo rate, mainly the repo rate actually. So they increase the repo rate, but bank's cost is not getting affected as of now because they had taken money previously. Right? They are not, when they're issuing a loan at the moment, it's not depending on the repo rate which is happening, not for the time being. So this is affecting the transmission change, affecting the policy transmission not taking place on the time. So RBI came up with external bank lending rate, which says that external benchmark. When RBI increases the repo rate, so this should be reflected here immediately, and the rate should increase. So if the repo rate is increased from 4 to, let's say, 5%, which will not happen. So if this happens, so similar change should be reflected in the bank's interest rate also. So more immediate transmission of RBI's monetary policy will take place. Next is marginal cost of lending rate, MCLR. So this was again similar to address issues related to base rate regime. Right. So with this repo rate and all those things, the changes are taking place. So that marginal cost is increasing because of that. And that should be reflected when the banks are lending. So marginal cost. So immediately it may not get affected, but some aspect would still be there. So marginal increase may take place. So that should be reflected. Okay. So all these things have taken place. And credit growth, we know it has increased, especially with reference to the unsecured loans. So that have increased. So this is a matter of concern. Okay. The WTO is saying that global goods trade recovery is taking place, and it is primarily driven by EV sales coming from India. The greatest demand is coming from India. Foxconn factory to come up in India, right? Chennai, Tamil Nadu, basically. So it is coming over here. What is Foxconn? Foxconn is a company which basically makes iPhone, Samsung phones, etc. It's a phone manufacturer. Companies outsource manufacturing to Foxconn. Rat hole mining, we have already covered this thing. It was banned by NGT in 2014. Okay. Next, very interesting. Growing more from less. Okay. So Niti Aayog, these members, experts, Ramesh Chand and Jaspal Singh, so they have released a report. So that is the motivation behind this article. Now let me briefly just main point over here. So it is basically saying that net sown area, net land under cultivation has not increased significantly. For example, this fact should be there with you. From 1950 to 1961, the land under cultivation increased at 14% rate. So it increased by 14%. But if we look at the land increase from 1961 to 2019 20, it is hardly anything. It is 3.3%. From 135, it has increased to 139.9 lakh hectares. So that is not sufficient, not good enough, right? So land under cultivation has not increased, but food production has increased. How can that be? That can happen with greater food productivity, farm productivity. And that has happened because of technology. The four factors of technology: genetics crops, crop nutrition, crop protection, and agronomic interventions. Kambala is a buffalo race event that takes place in the months of November 25 to 26. It is similar to Jallikattu in Tamil Nadu, and in uh, in other places also, like in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Punjab, some similar buffalo bullock race takes place. Now, Kambala was banned. Jallikattu was also banned actually. So Kambala was banned in uh, banned by the Supreme Court because of a petition filed by PETA, people for the ethical treatment of animals. That animal, they are tortured and all. So those things had come to light. So they had filed a petition. Supreme Court banned this, but it was revived by the Environment Ministry in some 2 years later. 2014 ban, 2016 it was restarted. Okay, so that's it on